So the problem is access to this is pretty difficult. It's several different layers deep. From either side you can't get to the middle. We actually found these two little guys inside the cupboard off to the side. Who knows how old they are. But also Janet is 5'4", can't really reach up to here. So it's only useful up to this point. So with visibility on each side, 3 rows, it only gives her access to half a dozen different spices. The ones in the middle are kind of useless.
So this is one of our cupboards in our kitchen next to the stove where we had our spices previously. This frame is the frame when the door is open, what's available to work with. We didn't want to put the spice racks too high because Janet's not that tall and it would be difficult to get to. So I built a shelf and hung everything from the shelf and then left this for the bulk storage that we can use to refill our jars. I had enough room to comfortably put 3 hanging spice racks, and I'll spin it around here. You can kind of see what it looks like on the inside. This was my concept, my idea. These jars we bought off Amazon. There's enough space for I think 80 jars, and the challenge was, you can see here there's a spot machined out of this top piece of wood here, and then down here there's a spot machined out for the bottom. There's actually a recess in here and then kind of a lip. So it's a little bit of a trial and error. I machined a couple different test samples, and the theory is that each one of these, you pull the whole thing out. It's on drawer pulls up here between these 2 pieces, and get full access, full pull. So that was the concept. That was the idea, all made out of cherry. So let's see how it turned out. So here's my test piece. I used plywood and some scrap cherry to try and get the size correct for the jar. It was quite a challenge to be able to get the jar in and out, but also lock it in from falling out the back or sliding around too much when pulling the drawer out. So you can see there, I'm getting it in, I'm pushing it straight in and dropping it down to lock into place. It worked pretty good. Here's my scientific test to see if it would fall out if I was opening and closing the spice rack. So then I grabbed the cherry, I sized it all to width, and some of it was not the best. So I tried to find the best ones for the face boards, at least. I cut everything down to size here, to length here. This is riveting footage here. But that laser sure is nice. It allows you to line it up right on your mark. So with all the pieces sized, I started getting the Shapeoko CNC machine ready. This machine's new to me, and it's something I'm learning how to use. My thought here was I wanted to be able to batch these things through without clamping everything with tools and everything. So I made a backstop, and then these eccentric levers that you spin them and they compress everything. So I learned over time that this works pretty good, but I don't think you want 2 different eccentric levers pushing against each other. It's just not as secure. So I set the height to 0 using a piece of paper between the bit and the wood. That tells it it's pretty much at 0 right on the wood. Of course, there's a lot of machining time, so gotta have my Diet Pepsi and my Titans koozie. Go Titans. So here's the top part where the lid goes in. Fast forward obviously, but it's machining it out 1 layer at a time, and then one final pass. This was actually pretty fun to watch. So here's a fresh blank where I'm starting out with a base. This is where the bottom of the jar goes. And I don't show machining the recess part there, but I did in the final product. And once again, the top, it's just so fun to watch, I think. And of course, there was plenty of hand sanding. So I tried to do this while the machine was running, so I didn't have a big pile of boards to sand. This was the example of my clamp failure. You can see there it bombed big time. You gotta love the final vacuuming of all the dust. Love it. And with all the bases and tops finished, I put the dados in the sides, the front and the back, I suppose you would call them. And so I set a stop and did them all at the same time to make sure they were perfectly aligned. Clamping was a bit tough. I had the dados and the rabbets were a couple thousandths smaller than they needed to be on a couple sides. So right there, I'm working at it pretty hard to get it in there. I did eventually, but I used pretty much all the clamping power I had to make sure they were nice and tight.
This is the finished product of the spice rack, and we have 3 parts that come out, and it can hold a total of 80 jars. We ordered these on Amazon, and you just pull them out when you need them. I've got them in alphabetical order and put them back in, and it's really nice and really easy to find.